Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are live here in the Houston Outlaws dugout, as it were. I'm ZP here with Matt to talk a little bit about Overwatch League, particularly Stage 2 and now into Stage 3 and the Overwatch life in general. Matt, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good,
Thanks for having me here in my practice room.
Yeah, I'm so glad you were able to make it here. It was really just nice that you could get to practice here today, and wouldn't have it any other way. But Matt, obviously we are through Stage 2. We are looking into Stage 3. But let me just ask, first of all, how was your week off?
It was really good, actually. Like, it was just what we needed to reset throughout the stage. The schedule is actually really aggressive, and so while we're playing and the season's active, we're playing 12 hours a day, right? Time off isn't really part of our language until the stage break, so that time is very precious to us, and it really helps us to mentally reset, physically reset, get to catch up on sleep.
Yeah, the sleep part is a big part, where, of course, for those who don't know, most of the Overwatch League teams spend a lot of time practicing, and as a result, when you actually get a week off, you want to make the most of it. So, of course, the week off came after Stage 2, and Stage 2 was an interesting time, particularly for the Outlaws, right, where you guys came off a very strong Stage 1 finish. You started out Stage 2 pretty good with a good week 1, and then struggled in the middle, and then ended up finishing out stronger than people would have expected. Talk me through that a little bit. How was the some of the troubles and tribulations throughout Stage 2?
I think at the start of Stage 2, we were still kind of trying to find our identity. Our first 2 wins, I felt like we got lucky on those. No joke. They kind of fell into our lap, and it was a period where it was a new stage for everybody, right? And so the first week is kind of like an equalizer. No one really knows what they're doing, and we come out on top in those scenarios often. So we started off strong. As the stage progressed, it kind of exposed our weaknesses to our enemies and to ourselves. We found that our dive wasn't effective. The way we play isn't really conducive to dive, so we had to really readjust everything at its core, change our foundation. And that took a lot of time. It still takes time. We're still not there. And as time went on, though, we did improve, and we still are improving. Towards the end, we had some good results that we felt we earned, that we worked for, and that really proved that we are growing. So I think that we're getting better. We're still learning this part of the game. We're not perfect, obviously, but there's improvement there.
So you mentioned the idea of adjustments, and Overwatch, of course, is now in its highest competitive state that's ever been. And you were one of the players that was back in the very beginning, right? You were in the beta, in the start of things. You had your run with teams like Hubris in the very, very beginning. And let me ask you this. How much have adjustments come to play in Overwatch League, where you mentioned, of course, adjusting more of stage, but you think back to the past, there wasn't always the most of team-specific prep. Whereas now it seems like it's a pretty big deal, regardless of who you're playing in the week.
Adjustments are really important. It's a weekly thing. State match by match is you need to have adjustments. You need to have proper scouting. You have to know what to expect. You have to know how to play against it, and it's really difficult to actually do because there aren't enough hours in the week, right? So to actually prepare for targeted preparation for 2 matches in a week is really difficult, just time-wise. Physically, there's not enough hours, and so adjustments are very important. We've won maps because of proper preparation.
Cool. And now, of course, moving forward into another topic here of teams that have adjusted really well, where if you think about the rise of Western teams doing better than expected in Overwatch League, the Outlaws were definitely that in Stage 1. And we had sort of an unexpected resurgence in the form of the Fusion in Stage 2, where they nearly took it all. What do you think led to Fusion's unprecedented success over the course of Stage 2?
Fusion has a similar story to us, I think. In Stage 1, they were really struggling to find something successful. They had pretty average performance, whereas in Stage 1 we dominated, and Stage 2 have kind of an average performance. Stage 2 they're dominating. I think that their main strength comes from they really found out how to maximize their DPS potential, right? They enable their DPS really well. Their dive is top tier because of it. Their supports are really hard to kill. Their DPS are some of the best in the league at their roles, and because of that, they have major success with their dive.
Cool. And now, of course, we are looking forward to Stage 3. Stage 2 is in the books, and the Outlaws in particular, they're still very much in contention. A lot of teams are actually in the middle of the pack, where it feels like any match you have against, say, the Valiant, the Gliders, the Fusion really matters. You look to get those top 6 spots. But going to Stage 3, what do you guys have foremost on the mind?
For me, personally, I like the stage resets because it's really like there's usually a patch that goes with it, and so it's like a meta reset. So I'm looking forward to a different meta. Maybe like we'll see some more Sombra, some Maze possible. Like it takes time for these things to develop, right? So we don't know exactly what's going to be the meta in a couple weeks. I'm hoping that we'll see a lot more niche picks. We'll see more Sombra, see more May, maybe Reaper, stuff like that.
And sort of throwing back to earlier in the interview, you think that for the Outlaws, you guys sort of thrive on the chaos of a new meta where, you know, whether it be from coaching staff or just players being smart about it, you think, okay, yeah, actually, it's fine that the meta's changed because we'll find quicker ways of taking advantage of this before the opposition does.
I think one of our strengths is that we learn very fast. And so, like, when there's a patch, when we play right after, I feel very comfortable going into those matches. I feel like our instinct, just off of, like, this new stuff, like, gives us an edge.
Cool. All right. One final question here. Of course, you are most well known for your diva play. Any major tip you'd like to give out there to people to improve their diva play as they go through the ladder?
Holy shit. Protect your supports. You know, turn around every once in a while and defense matrix them. Keep track of the tracers. Shoot rockets at their feet. Don't feed.
Don't feed.
Even though I feed a lot. I don't want to.
Never intentionally feed, but sometimes that happens. Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview today, and thank you guys at home for watching.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Owl's Nest. I'm, of course, your host, Gilfrost, a.k.a. the guy on the left, and I am here with Nebtune and ZP, and we are going to be talking some Overwatch League, and especially about the Houston Outlaws this week. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
Doing great, man. It's been a busy couple of weeks. Just got back from the Outlaws tour, but super thankful to be here.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking some time out of the schedule. It's, you know, we've been wanting to put on stuff like this as much as we can. ZP, I know you've been busy.
It's been a lot of flying back and forth, but let me tell you, now I'm just wondering, is like, can I just plot something here to put you on the right side, just to mess with the flow of the universe? Camera and post-production, maybe we just like flip everything here. Just never let this man be on the left, except for all the times where he should be on the left, because, look, that's your thing.
I'm feeling very left out with all of this hate against this side of the desk, but let's actually move straight into things. Of course, we just watched the interview with the one and only CoolMatt, which is very good to see some of his insights into the team and as well as the Overwatch League in general. So one thing that he mentioned, that he brought up, is having the team identity. Now, I know that the Outlaws have definitely been a team that have been touted as having some very specific identities. You know, the Jake Rat comes to mind. And of course, America's team is thrown out. But really, what is the Outlaws' identity as a team right now coming into Stage 3?
Okay, well, look, if Junkrat is their team identity, then America's team is in the dumpster, because that is where Junkrat's from. But no, it's not entirely wrong, right? Where the idea is that as a team, the Outlaws have done best when they haven't tried to emulate the sort of full dive that we've seen from other teams. They do enjoy running more unconventional strategies. And you look at Stage 1, they had a lot of success running more Junkrat-focused comps than other teams. And getting to Stage 3, to mixed success so far, they have been able to work that to their advantage. Certainly worked out against London, not so much against Boston, but you can tell that is still a different take on the game than what we saw from them throughout most of Stage 2.
Yeah, what about you? I mean, what would you say is your favorite part about watching the Outlaws right now in the last couple of weeks, maybe?
Honestly, it's just the amount of cohesion they have together, right? It's such a treat to be able to watch players that are really fine-tuned and really dialed into each other. Their patterns, their tendencies, they truly understand the people that are sitting right next to them.
And you know what? That is actually a very important part of their game plan coming into these. They have shown that they've been able to leverage that into adapting to new metas fairly quickly. But not only that, but when you have that level of cohesion, you're able to leverage that into chaos and actually thriving in chaotic situations. You know, because everyone can bring a game plan, but when things devolve and when you're on a new map and a new meta, you know, and you're in a situation where you can't necessarily plan ahead and have time to think about things, when you're in the thick of it, that's where the Outlaws seem to thrive. And I know that this really came to fruition in their match against the London Spitfire. So ZP, break that down for us. How are they able to leverage their skills in chaos in that matchup.
Well, you think about things that have changed to a degree in the meta, right? Where it's not a full-scale meta change like back when Mercy got nerfed and suddenly you see her significantly less, though not as less as people might have believed. You do see here that there's a new map in the map pool. You have Blizzard World, which teams are not going to really fully know until later on into the stage. And then you also have the idea that Sombra can be used more often. And again, probably not to the idea of like always picking her like some people thought it would be, but the Outlaws, of course, have had success. They've been able to mix in Sombra into their control game, which I think looked really well for Jake. It gave him a non-tracer hero to play that he worked out pretty well on against London. And more importantly, going to Blizzard World and this idea of thriving off the chaos, what is more chaotic than learning a brand new map? And you take a look at the defense that Houston was able to put up on Blizzard World in particular. They were outflanking London over and over again and simply seemed to have a better grasp on how to just utilize the map, particularly in the defense, early on before London has had a chance to digest it. So the fact that Houston was able to be ahead of the game, particularly there, was very beneficial for them.
Yeah, no, it was honestly a pleasure to watch, and this has been, I mean, I was really excited, I'm not going to lie, for this stage because of Blizzard World. It's a very interesting map, and I just like to see these things being thrown into the mix, and that was one of our first really strong looks at defense on the point A. Point B has been a little bit more difficult, so, I mean, when you see teams coming into point B, what is the most difficult part about pushing through into the end?
Honestly, it feels like getting around the initial curve, and then changes that we're seeing in PTR right now for Blizzard World actually show it. But I feel like getting around some of those curves and those edges seem particularly tough, just because positioning feels really difficult for me whenever I approach that map.
Yeah, and yeah, there's this choke at the very front, and then there's so many flanking opportunities, right? And that just makes it just very difficult. That was how they were able to get an amazing 3-2 victory against London. Then, a week later, things were a little bit different for the Houston Outlaws as they were going up against the Boston Uprising. And I don't want to focus too much on their play. I really want to focus on what went wrong for the Outlaws coming into this match, and then as well as they played through it. So what really went wrong for this team in the Boston Uprising incident?
So going into Uprising, I think part of it is that they are swapping back to a different way of playing the game, and a lot of how they're approaching these maps are not going to the stage 2 of trying to match dive with dive at all times. And the reality is that Boston is a very mechanically good team. Boston got to play closer to their historical comfort zone, and look, even looking at Jake's comments publicly where Jake said, yeah, you know, we weren't really in top form as we came in. Of course, you had Jake and Raucus flying out to do, you know, one of the most celebrated morning TV shows. But look, that comes at a cost. You get less prep time. And I just think that even if they came in knowing what their strategy might have been, the execution wasn't quite there. And Boston just got to stick with what they've been historically good at. So it felt more like just a failing of execution that very easily could have been attributed to playtime. But we still saw them, just strategy-wise, go, yeah, we are going to change things up. And developing that over the course of a stage might take a little bit of time.
Definitely, most definitely. And you know, to their credit, I mean, Boston is a very strong team, and they were playing to their strengths. So, you know, you can look at and try to figure out the mistakes that were made leading into that. But realistically speaking, it's two titans clashing on that battlefield, and one of them is going to be coming out on top. In this case, it was the Boston Uprising. So tonight we've got the Philly Fusion going to be, so, you know, make sure you're tuning into that. But what are you looking forward to in that matchup?
Honestly, us walking away with a win. I mean, every single time we've had one of these matches, they've been relatively close, right? Last time, particularly, we got reverse swept right towards the end. And it definitely left a bad taste in all of our mouths. But I feel like there's an opportunity here for us to learn from the past and step up this time around.
Yeah, I agree. How do you think they're going to do that?
So objectively, Fusion is one of the best teams in the league. Obviously, they were surging throughout Stage 2. It's when you think of the top Western teams in the Overwatch League, you think Fusion and you think the Outlaws right now. And I would say that any two times these teams have played each other has been close for the most part. Perhaps not as much so in Stage 1. But overall, I mean, you look at the matchups here, it's very possible for either team to come out ahead. And, you know, I would say that the Fusion were considered somewhat of an upset over the Outlaws in Stage 2 when the Outlaws were surging. Going to Stage 3, I mean, who knows? You have multiple wildcards here, which is that Fusion has looked really good in recent times, and the Outlaws are tooling to different strategies, but we don't quite know how Fusion's going to deal with that just yet. Either way, I mean, I think that could go either way, and should be a good match no matter what.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to watch it, so I'm sorry if I'm planning to hang out with anyone else tonight. I'm going to be pretty boring, as I'm going to have my eyes firmly glued on whatever screen I can find. No, so make sure you're tuning into that. Other than that, any closing comments, anything else you want the Outlaws fans and the Overwatch League fans at large to know?
I think all of them should know that they should be tuning into some of these charity matches that we have going on this weekend, actually. We're going to be having the Austin support group taking on the NYXL support group. This Saturday, it's going to be at 1 p.m. CST, where those folks are going to be duking it out for a good cause, for Dell's Children charity out here in the Texas area.
So it's not clear when these changes will be taking place, but I do know that Fact Fiction is down practicing with the Outlaws on a regular basis now, so there could be situations where Fact decides to come on in for Muma in key areas. Very likely would be maps that are more favorable to a Reinhardt, so that could be a thing. Like in Nepal, I think would be an interesting swap up to bring him in there. And the other thing is that Arhan at some point will be in on stage 3, so in terms of DPS variety, you'll see more swap ups between Jake, Linkser, Clockwork, and now Arhan coming in. So seeing Arhan's role for the Outlaws moving forward actually will be very intriguing to watch as it unfolds.
Yeah, lots to look forward to, not only with the likes of Fact Fiction and Arhan coming in, a lot of changes coming in through the Outlaws squad, but also some of these other ancillary events like that is happening this Saturday. So make sure you do tune in for that. It is going to be a really fun time. We're going to be watching, of course, that Austin support group, and they're going to be facing off against the NYXL, and we need to show our support from the side of the Houston Outlaws, and it's once again for Dell's Children's Hospital. So tune into that. Make sure you click that subscribe button down somewhere around here somewhere, and so that you can get more updates as to when we're going live. And if you do like what you see, make sure you hit that bell and get notifications and like us wherever you can. It's been a pleasure bringing you this week's episode of Owl's Nest. We'll see you all next week.